morning. This is Jacqui Davis, and
This is Brian Dadisman.
here we are at SOIA. After we asked Dr. Matthew Johnson for special permission to come up here last night, he was gracious enough to give okay. So we spent one night up here. This is Brian's first time up at SOIA, and I'm just doing a pan of the SOIA area. That's our living room. There's Elrod, the trusty camping truck. There's the 11 o'clock position and 12 o'clock position going around to the cots, heading toward the 3 o'clock position, and then the bushes behind the living room. And so last night was not a quiet night. We came up really with no expectations, but as soon as we got here about 5, about 7 o'clock, we started hearing twigs cracking, pops in the woods. About the 11 o'clock to 10 o'clock position. As it started getting dark, we began to see red orbs of light down behind the cots in the bushes over here. And then Brian and I sat and just talked and played music, played my drum. And behind us behind the chairs on about, I'd say the 8 o'clock position, we heard two young juvenile voices talking. And also saw some more lights up in this area, but it was, we were unable to determine what that was because the moon was up last night. It could have been squatches, but it could have been the moonlight through the trees. Luckily, Brian is very pragmatic and not as woo-woo as I am, and so it's like you got to see it to believe it. So we were, part of our experiences were special voices around the cots, little juvenile, sounds like little female voices, some light touching and moving of the covers as we were sleeping. I asked for a healing. I asked that they heal Brian's back, which is problematic. And so it was a night of, we felt welcome. We had good experiences. The moon was beautiful. SOIA is not fire inundated. The sky is now blue and beautiful with just a little residual smoke. But we had an event last night that was beyond anything I've experienced at SOIA. We were sitting over in our living room, and all of a sudden we saw a huge flash of light at the 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock position. It was enough. So Brian and I both jumped up out of our chairs, jumped back, and went, "What was that?" So I'm going to let Brian give you a first-hand report on his experiences because he's Mr. Pragmatic, and I want you to hear it from the horse's mouth.
So, anyway, yeah, we were sitting in the chairs, which are right there, and we weren't talking anything much, just laughing and having a good time. So, right here in the chairs, and then directly across here, right at those trees, which I stepped off, it's almost exactly 40 feet away. We both saw this we both saw this same bright flash of light. It might have lasted a little over a second, and I would say it was slightly rectangular in shape, with the top of it being 8 to 10 feet off of the ground. And in that rectangular shape, I would say there was, when I first saw it, I would say the brightest side of it was on the left, and that brightness moved left to right through it. But it happened so fast, maybe slightly over a second. I originally thought it was headlights from a car coming up the hill, which would have been over there. So there's our seating position. And since the lights were on those trees, I thought it was a headlight coming up the hill and headlight flashing between trees, but we never saw another light. And there's where the thing was, the bright light was, and it actually frightened us both. because that's exactly the same spot I've been told that Matt saw a what he calls a portal. And that very well could have been an explanation for it, because I have no other explanation for this. It was bright, it was kind of frightening. We didn't know what to think, and if it is a portal, what left or what came through into, we were a little bit nervous for a while, and we stood here and just looked at that spot for probably about an hour.
We
afterwards.
were bug-eyed for
Yes,
about an hour. We were sitting here just with our eyes as big as saucers.
So I have no explanation for it. I have never been as frightened as that in the woods. And there's Jacqui, and there's me again. I don't know what to say, but it definitely got our adrenaline going.
Yeah, well, we weren't eating last night. We're still here. We're alive. We had a beautiful night's sleep, very peaceful, some healing from some younger squatches, it seemed. I talked about that earlier. Funny thing is, when we woke up this morning, we found this very weird track on the ground. Let's see if I can get it on the ground here. I don't know if I can find it, but it was a long. Can you get that, Brian, for me? It's like this 5-foot long track that stops and starts suddenly.
Yeah.
It looks like a big drag mark with maybe a footprint in the middle of it.
And there's Jacqui standing next to it.
It goes right to here, and then it disappears. It appeared and disappeared, and it wasn't there last night. We've never seen anything like that before up here. So I don't know. It could have been the special Kool-Aid Matt sent us by express mail before we came up here. It could be that Matt is just a good enough psychologist to hypnotize us from 500 miles away. But anyway, that's our story. It was quite a night, and we thank you, Dr. Matthew Johnson.